Hello, it's Lord Slaw here, coming back at you with another video, and the topic of today's is the top 5 Colin Baker episodes. So for some odd reason, Colin Baker is looked back on as often the worst Doctor, which really confuses me because I really like his era and I really like his Doctor. I mean, not gonna lie, he is much better in Big Finish, and the quality of his episodes is also much better in Big Finish. But I think people hate his era a little too much because I actually quite enjoy his era. I mean, it's certainly better than the fucking Davison era, which was crap. And while there isn't many episodes in the Colin Baker era, most of it's of pretty good quality. Apart from, of course, Swindle and Time Lash, which aren't going to touch this list at all. But aside from that, there's not really any episodes I consider bad. There's a couple mediocre, and there's a few that are really, really good. So, without further ado, let's get into the top 5 Colin Baker episodes. So, at number 5, we have Mark of the Ronnie. So, with so little episodes to this era, there's bound to be something which isn't the best at number 5. And while Mark the Ronnie isn't a bad episode, and it's kind of a little better than mediocre, it's not, like the greatest thing ever, but it's still a really enjoyable episode. I mean, I really like the character of the Ronnie. I think Kate O'Mara portrays her excellently. Her chemistry and, the way she acts with Anthony Ainley and Colin Baker is just a joy to watch and almost makes the episode worth watching within itself. My only problems with it is really just Pip and Jane Baker's writing. While they come up with some good ideas and make some good characters, they really struggle to get good pacing and good dialogue, and this definitely suffers from it. Not as bad as Terror of the Vervoids, mind you, but it still suffers from it, and don't even get me started on Time of the Ronnie. But yeah, they just don't really know how to pace things, and often their dialogue feels a little bit stiff. But aside from that, it's a really enjoyable episode. The Ronnie's excellent. I like the setting. It's one of the few episodes which, is set in the northeast, and they actually got Geordies this time, unlike in the Time Medley. But then again, I suppose there wouldn't have been Geordies back in the what was that, like the 800s or something? I don't know. It's a pretty good story, not the best thing ever, but it comes in at number 5. So at number 4 we have Revelation of the Daleks. So for some reason people consider this the best episode of the Colin Baker era, and while I really enjoy it, it's definitely a good episode. Is it really that good? I don't know. It's still a really good story. It adds to the Dalek lore quite a bit, and it's probably one of the most expanded on a Big Finish with like what happened with those events. But oh well. Let's talk about the episode itself. It's fucking weird. Like seriously, it's like kind of kinder level of trippy. I mean, what the fuck was going on? Especially with that DJ and just things like that. It can be a bit unsettling at times, especially with the fact that, Davros turning people into food. That's incredibly dark, and, Colin Baker's 2 seasons are really dark, which I'm quite a fan of, which is probably why I quite like his era. Yeah, the Daleks are kind of a bit not too good in this, mainly because mainly the Tranquil Repose Daleks for most of the episode, and I mean, they sound really stupid. In fact, just the Daleks in general sound stupid in this episode. I don't know if they got like a different voice actor to do them, but they sound so dumb. But oh well, it's an alright episode. Well, it's pretty good to be honest, but it does have a few weak points. But I'd still say it's very much worth watching, and it's a very good episode, and that's why it comes in at number 4. So at number 3 we have The Two Doctors. I really, really like the story. I mean, one of the main reasons is it has fucking Patrick Troughton in it. And you know how much I like Patrick Troughton. He's just an absolutely amazing human being, and I love him. He's great, and he just slips so well back into the role. It's ridiculous. He's the Doctor again, just instantly. And on top of it, it's a really well written episode, as you'd expect from Robert Holmes, with some really good characters. I really like the Sontarans in this personally, because they seem quite threatening and imposing, while Lynx is still my favourite Sontaran. Stike is a close second, because he's just, really threatening. I mean, maybe it's just because I've come off the back of fucking Strax, rewatching this. I mean, I watched Two Doctors before Matt Smith's era originally, but most recent viewing was after Strax, and yeah. Can we have the Sontarans be threatening again? Although, to be honest, there wasn't many Sontarans in this. It was mainly Dastari and the Androgums, which the Androgums are quite a fun alien race, especially with Shock Eye's basically main aim for the entire story is to eat a human. Yeah, it's a really enjoyable story. Patrick Troughton's good in it, and Jamie's good in it as well. I mean, Jamie's always really good in everything he's in. I'm glad he's coming to Big Finish as well. But it's a great story, and that's why it comes in at number 3. So at number 2 we have Trial of a Time Lord. So I absolutely love this story. I mean, I know some people separate this in 4 different stories, but I'm just gonna keep it as one because let's face it, in the title, sequence, it's all Trial of a Time Lord going up to episode 14. So, I can't really bring myself to separate them. But anyway, it's a really, really good story. I mean, sure, Terror of the Vervoid isn't the best, but the rest of it I absolutely love. Even the Mysterious Planet, which some people say, no, Mysterious Planet's not good. I really enjoy it. And of course, Ultimate Foe is excellent, and Mind Warp is absolutely brilliant. Probably the best moment of Colin Baker's era. I probably like it more than number 1 by itself. But since it's in Trial of a Time Lord, it kind of gets dragged back to 2. But either way, it's an absolutely amazing story. It's really dark. The Valiard is an excellent character. Even Madame Inquisitor is an excellent character. And all the little stories are pretty good, apart from Terror of the Vervoids. And I love the addition of Sabalon Glitz. Well, I haven't seen Dragonfire yet, and I don't really want to. In these 2 episodes, at least, the 2 parts of Trial of Time Lord he's in, he's really a really fun character, very memorable. And it's just a great story all round that spans 14 parts pretty well. And that's why it comes in at number 2. So, an honourable mention before we come to number 1, The Twin Dilemma. I'm kidding. That thing's not on the list. Go away. Attack of the Cybermen. So Attack of the Cybermen's quite a good story, even if it's not the best ever. I'd probably say it was mediocre overall, but it's still pretty enjoyable. I mean, it's basically just an hour and a half of Cyberman fan wank, which I don't have a problem with, but I just wish it was written a little better. And just this thing doesn't seem the best written. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very enjoyable to watch, and Litton's great in it, and all the little nods and references are pretty good. But I don't know, it's just not the best thing ever. There's a lot of good moments overall, but that's it. It's just kind of a collection of good moments with a bit of crap in between. That's the best way of summing up Attack of the Cybermen. But it's still worth a watch, because it's still pretty good, and it's like head and shoulders above Time Lash and Twin Dilemma. So I thought I'd be nice to it and not bundle it in with them and bring it on this list. So, at number 1, we have Vengeance on Varus. So I absolutely love this story. It's really, really good. I mean, the idea of having like a punishment dome where like there's all sorts of tricks and traps for the Doctor to get out of is a very good setup for a Doctor Who episode. I mean, they could have done a little more with it, but I think that's mainly due to the fact that they didn't have the biggest budget. If they'd had a higher budget for this, and still had the same quality of script writing, I think they could have made it, a bit better. But it doesn't really need to be that much better because it's still a really, really good story. I love the characters in it, and with the Governor, Quillum, and especially Syl. I'm so glad he came back in Mind Warp because he's a lot of fun as well as just being absolutely fucking mad. Which it's good to watch mad characters sometimes. Yeah. So I also like its social commentary as well on like how are we desensitized to like violence if we see it on TV all the time, stuff like that. Well, yeah, and I quite like those 2 characters which are kind of hammering that message home inside the little house where they're like voting and stuff, to kill the governor. I just thought it worked really well, and it was a really fun story to watch, and I'd highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it, and it is definitely the best Colin Baker story. So, that was my top 5 Colin Baker stories. I believe his Big Finish work is much better, because some of his big finishes are already much better than Vengeance on Varus, but that's beside the point. That was this list, and hope you enjoyed, and see you back next time in another video.